Unfortunately for them, they aren't likely to ever find out. It is a few days later, and they have ducked into an unused siding for the night. Out in the middle of nowhere, it is very dark and very cold. Winter is coming, and for the humans involved in this escape effort, camping out in Douglas's cab is quickly becoming infeasible. They huddle close to the firebox with sleeping bags and extra blankets and the last of Douglas's warmth as his fire dies and his water cools. Douglas himself, being an engine, isn't so bothered by the cold, or at least not in the same way that humans are. As he sits on the frosty siding, his black paintwork blending perfectly with the dark forest around him, he can't help but worry that one morning he would wake up to find his crew expired from exposure in his cab. He bites his lip and looks around, listening. The forest is eerie silent, but he can hear a night train rumble past out on the main line, and his crew talking in hushed tones back in the cab. We can't keep doing this. It's getting colder every night. I saw a wanted poster at one of the stations today. It's only a matter of time before we get caught. We'll be arrested for sure. What are you saying, man? That we should just give up? I dinna ken, but I'm beginning to think this is a lost cause. But what about Douglas? We canna just leave him. He'd be found and scrapped in no time. You think I dinna ken that? It's nae like I want that to happen, but Christ, we've been looking for weeks and we've found nothing. No one's even willing to admit it exists, let alone where it is. Someone will. Someone has to. We just need to keep looking. Douglas deserves a chance. He has as much right to live as those awful diesels do, if nae more a one. We've given him a chance. I think we need to accept that the steam is over. We tried and I'm sorry we failed, but the end of the week. Give it until then, please. There was a pause. Douglas held his breath. Fine, but then what? Douglas couldn't listen any longer. He didn't want to hear his fireman's response. Instead, he shut his eyes and did his best to block out their voices. Tears leaked from his eyes and froze on his cheeks. This was his fault. They were stuck here because of him. In that moment, surrounded by darkness with an impossible situation ahead, he missed Donald with everything he had in him. Wherever you are. They wouldn't make it until the end of the week. The very next day brings with it storms of more than just one kind. Snow and wind batter their world, and making going tough and visibility near to naught. Even with the old snowplow they found dumped behind an equally old shed, and quickly claim for themselves, they find themselves stranded in a siding, scarcely able to see said snowplow hooked up to Douglas's front, never mind the line ahead. They hunker down, intending to wait it out. Douglas tries to persuade his crew to go and find someplace warm, but they are hesitant to leave their engine alone with diesels about, so they stay and roast hot dogs over his fire instead. Night falls, and with it the already bitter cold temperature, they are forced to keep Douglas's fire burning for warmth. They are also forced to keep his tail lamp lit, due to the fact that the siding they're now on is an operational one. This is their downfall. They had been asleep and might have stayed asleep if not for the sudden beam of light that flashes over them and the voices that rise out of the gloom. Can you see its number? No. Looks like a plate was removed. This must be it then. No number, no cargo, and 812. The cops turn to the cab, shining their torches around. Right, you two, come out with your hands up. The driver climbs down, seemingly obedient, while the fireman stays aboard, pretending to fumble with his boots. We've no done anything wrong, officer, the driver tries to explain. We got caught in the storm on the way home and had to pull over. The cops look skeptical. Did you then? Where is your engine's number plate? The driver, in an attempt at distraction, walks around to look. As this happens, the fireman, as quickly as he can, shovels coal into Douglas's firebox. It must have fallen off earlier. Wouldn't it be the first time? Damn things are always slipping off. Uh-huh, says the lead cop disbelievingly. You wouldn't happen to know anything about the escaped Scottish scrap engine, would you? He adds, ready to gauge their response. There's a pause. No, sir. Really? Another cop asks. A sentient CR-812 and BR black, no number plates and no cargo? The driver is getting visibly nervous now. You can't be thinking it's us. Our engine's no sentient. He is cut off as one of the officers who is walking around Douglas shines his torch up at his face. He starts, eyes glinting in the dim light like those of a frightened animal. Is that so? It looks pretty sentient to me, says the officer. Caught in a lie, they panic. He's just as alive as we are. Scrapping him would be like murder, the fireman exclaims. It's a machine, and an outdated one at that. It belongs in a scrapyard, which is where it will be going once we've dealt with you, says one of the cops, and they pull out their handcuffs. You two are under arrest for theft and smuggling. Before they can finish, Douglas's fireman dives across his cab and flips a switch, giving Douglas full control of himself. Douglas doesn't remember what happened next, only that it leads to him being without his crew. One of the cops goes after him then, and there's a scuffle in the cab. The fireman throws himself at the controls and throws open the regulator. Go, Douglas, run! He yells. Run! Douglas is at once both alert and afraid. Driver? Fireman? What? Something slams into the side of his cab, causing him to flinch in surprise. He's not sure what's going on, only that there are police officers, unfamiliar voices in yellow torchlight, stark against the black of night. Then he has a sickening feeling that this is the end. Go, Douglas, his driver shouts. There's more scuffling and raised voices, and Douglas knows he hasn't a choice. Unable to see behind him, and barely ahead of him either in the dark, he reverses, wheels slipping in ice and snow. Quite suddenly, there's a thump and a scream and a sickening crunch from behind him. He slides backwards, the voices rising to shouting and the scene coming into horrific clarity. His crew, both of them, lay motionless across the track, snow stained red around them. The cops, having scrambled clear, crouch frozen in the snow, shell-shocked. Douglas, as he stops, wants to scream. He shakes with the realization of what he's done, that he's killed his own crew, and tears well up in his eyes. They were only trying to help me, to keep me alive, he whimpers, and his voice seems to jolt the police back to business. Someone stop it! Shut it off! Someone shouts, and someone else starts toward him. Douglas, panicked and unwilling to let his crew's sacrifice be for nothing, throws himself into reverse again, skidding out of the siding and into the storm. Soon he is running down the line, fear pushing him on. He can scarcely see a thing, snow displacing around him like thick fog as his plow cuts swiftly through it. However, without his crew to keep his fire stoked, he does not get far. He doesn't know how long it lasts. But too soon he's slowing to a stop. No! No! He tries to go further, but finds he's quite stuck. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There he stays for the rest of the night, crying bitter tears of regret and loss as the snow piles up around him. It's hours later when he's startled awake by a bump from behind. Hey, 199, looky here, calls an oily voice. It's that runaway. Well, another voice replies, would you look at that? Douglas doesn't bother to protest as they haul him off. There's no point anyway, not when he has no steam left to move with. Not when he has no steam left to move with.